So I'm Lori Arthur. I'm the marketing communication specialist at PNR. So thank you all for coming. This is Jeremy Bauer. He is our resident weatherman. He will send you emails telling you what's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll discuss there if you want to be part of that there at the end.
Yep. He lets us know when we need to watch out. So Jeremy, take it away.
All right, will do. That was just a little soothing video there to kind of introduce everything. The music in that was actually done by my friend Tyler. He actually does, so that was completely original score and everything. All right. So welcome to the meteorology version of Show and Tell. So as Lori said, my name is Jeremy Bauer. I work in the groundwater division at the Nebraska Department of Natural Resources. Been doing that now for about 3.5 years now. As of course Microsoft. There we go. Okay, pulling up there. This is going to be pretty laid back. There are some other presentations that I've done that you can actually access on the internet if you'd like to hear me flap my gums even more, or if you like to stare at this ugly mug even more. So like I said, we'll go through a couple things as far as some of the best photography. If you have any questions or anything, like I said, this will probably go at a pretty good pace. So if you have questions, comments, all that, I'm sure we could do that there. No problem there at the end. Okay. So a little bit about me. So I was born and raised in New Philadelphia, Ohio, which is a little bit south of Canton. So yes, as a child, I would go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame quite often. Graduated from high school in 1999. At that particular point, kind of knew that my career path would involve some sort of weather as part of it, but I just wasn't really sure how or what. And then about the summer of 2000, I noticed that there was a website for a storm chasing tour company. So in the summer of 2001, I actually went on that storm chasing tour company as a tourist and went out there, and they take you around wherever the storms will be. And there's people from all over the world. There were people from England, people from Japan, people from South America, just all over, and they just pay money to go see storms. Well, at the end of that particular tour, the owner, the tour guide said, you know what, sounds like you know quite a bit about weather. I know you're only 20 years old, but maybe you could use a break. So he decided to hire me. And for the next several years, I was actually a forecaster/driver for that tour company for a couple of years. And then roll into, as part of that education, I got my bachelor's degree there from Ohio State. Moved out here into August of 2005 to actually attend the University of Nebraska-Lincoln for graduate school in atmospheric science. Married my lovely wife Chantel in 2008, who, by the way, did the graphics, because I can do pictures, but graphics and all that, I'm just a little bit beyond stick figures. In 2012, we decided we needed some sort of outlet to kind of portray our love for weather and our passion for science and everything to the public. So we started JRB Storm Photography, and that's where we're kind of at right now. And this year will be my 25th year in the outreach/storm chasing spectrum. So there's my feel old moment of the day. Anyway, so 2001, well, this is how you got weather data, and this is how you went down the road. Big old van right here. You have a satellite dish. You point that thing at the sky and you get yourself some satellite internet. Now, the one thing about satellite internet back in 2001, you had to be very still inside the van. So you point that thing and then you say your left. No, I mean your other left. You point that thing. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Stop. And then you have data, which is 3 hours old. But hey, still got it. It's the only important thing. So there I am, Mr. Backwards Hat, May 29, 2001. Little did I know that the fun and everything for the next almost 25 years would have to entail. So JRB Storm Photography, as I mentioned, it's a little bit more than just photography. We do a lot of outreach, a lot of severe weather awareness. For the last several years, the Lincoln Amateur Radio Club has actually brought us in to do kind of like a borderline advanced storm spotter talk. And I just did that last Wednesday, presented on the April 26th Arbor Day tornado, and also the July 31st event, if you remember the Windy Wednesday that took down trees, and some of you may or may not have lost power. If there's any future interest in me presenting that similar presentation, would gladly do it, but we can talk about that somewhere down the line. But in the meantime, if you do have any interest in hearing me flap my gums even more, on YouTube, for JRB Storm, the YouTube channel, there is Some Secrets to Safe Storm Spotting that I gave to Lincoln Amateur Radio Club last year. Basically, if you have any interest in weather and identifying certain things about the weather or certain cloud types and everything, it's a really good presentation. I would say it's something that if you have some to a little bit of meteorology knowledge, you'll probably find it very, very interesting. So like I said, if you want to go check that out, please do. All right, so probably what you're all here for today. Favorite weather images, maybe throw in a few tips as well. Again, disclaimer, don't try this if you're bored or seeking thrills. You're okay to laugh too. It's, just all that kind of good stuff. Okay. Probably one of my most infamous images, this was taken up near Cheyenne, Wyoming a few years back. This tornado actually moved from northwest to southeast, which is pretty unusual movement. Usually most tornadoes, probably about 95 to maybe 98%, give or take, move southwest to northeast. Well, this one was moving completely a different direction. We were on a west-east road, so we had a good escape path. This is taken with a telephoto lens. Telephoto lenses come in handy. But at this particular time, this tornado actually came out of the rain, and this happened to be right place, right time. Autorama Pics, now known as Printnique, is a image company based out of New York City, and they hold an annual contest. In 2019, they were looking for the top images that you had taken in 2018. We submitted it. Long story short, this particular image was named by them as one of the top 12 images taken in the world in 2018. So kudos to me on that one. And if you are a big fan of the Wizard of Oz, there is the same tornado in its shrinking stage, taken in, converted to black and white. Some people like that image even more than the other one. This is a shelf cloud in central South Dakota. Some of these small towns you go through, and I think the cockroaches outnumber the tenants, but that's another story. This was taken with a wide angle lens towards sunset. You get kind of like that midnight blue looking look to the sky. About a few minutes later, your temperature drops from the mid 90s down to the low 60s. So yeah, changes of clothes are preferable, especially sweatshirts and all that. Yes, Mike. We'll close that. Whoop. Nope. The things that happen. It's live TV, folks. Anything can happen here. All right, get back to it. Where am I at? Let's see. Nope. There we go. Okay. So at this particular point in time, this shelf cloud goes overhead. You can see the blue up there in the sky there with lightning and all that. This was taken near Fremont a few years back. You can see right here, clearly rotating that entire thing would be what's called the mesocyclone. So effectively, that is the precursor to a tornado. Wall cloud would be right in here. And basically at that point, you're maybe moments away from a tornado. Thank goodness for Fremont, there was another storm that was nearby. It kind of cut off the energy, the inflow going into that particular storm, prevented the tornado from occurring. Thank goodness. This is a elevated thunderstorm. You'll see these a lot. This is out in the National Grassland area of northeast Wyoming, near Wright. The white area you see coming down there, that is hail coming down. Same day later, just a few miles from Devil's Tower, this particular storm, and actually what's interesting here is back in this back area where that dark is, there was actually two tornadoes that actually occurred out of that particular storm. but didn't really have a good viewpoint of them due to lighting and so forth. But interesting event. Later on, this was my first trip ever to the state of Montana. Yeah, you have this kind of like this almost Liberty Bell shaped updraft there. That's again what we call a supercell. Majority of your tornadoes, that's where they're going to come from, is those supercells. Right here, central Montana. This is what they would call an LP, or a low precipitation type thunderstorm. These can get very gnarly, especially when they collapse. We were riding in a van, and one of the nearby storms collapsed, and then we were hit with a 75, 80 mile an hour wind. The last thing you want to be is in a high terrain vehicle. That thing started rocking, so we had to hightail it out of there because we thought there for a second the van was going to flip over. All right, just a few tips I get into. Like I said, intermingle if you have any passion or interest in photography. Basically, the biggest thing I would recommend is, tripod preferably, or a monopod, or at least something, that allows that camera to be steady, especially if you're in high winds, that type of deal. And making sure your batteries are charged, have clean cloths because of just the conditions and so forth. I would say have a method of also backing up your photos, have some type of offline, some type of cloud storage system, and have repetitive backups. Trust me, I know that from experience that you can easily lose photos if you don't have repetitive backups. This is a neat little device that I picked up on Amazon a couple years ago. This called Zenvo. Now, if you don't want to spend a whole ton of money on photography, $40, you can actually buy this little gizmo right here. It actually has a wide angle, so that's the thing that you see right there attached to it. But you unscrew that off, and then there's actually a macro underneath, so you can actually take something like this, and you can put that on your, whether it doesn't matter if you have an Android or an Apple product or iPhone or what have you, you can take different photos, including hooking it up to your phone or have you and do something like that. Now, this is panorama, of course, but you're using that device too, so you even have a bigger sweep of the sky right there. Of course, this was taken here out on one of the balconies. This was actually at 9:30 in the morning, a couple of summers ago. Just a big old shelf cloud right there. The shelf clouds are usually perfectly harmless most of the time, is from just, but the one thing you do have to be aware of, especially from, we know from last July 31st, they can be just as destructive or even more destructive as a tornado can be. Again, just an example, what you can do there with those types of devices, again, with whether it be a, like I said, a portable device or phone or whatever, there's always going to be two things. Make sure that you're in focus and you're exposed properly. That will make or break any photo that you take. It doesn't matter what particular camera that you're using. Always to make sure that you can, especially with the newer devices, they can usually focus pretty good. It's just sometimes the exposure, as you know, can be a little bit iffy, especially in low light on those devices. But again, yeah, you can do pretty good stuff with that. This is just a shelf cloud down in the Oklahoma Panhandle. Again, if you have the right lighting and everything, you can get some pretty good pictures. For photographing sunrises and sunsets, if you have the ability to adjust the aperture on your particular device, the aperture is that F numbers, like F4, F5, 6, whatever. If you have the ability to adjust that and put it, let's say at like 5, 6, and then just let the camera or let the device just decide the other settings, you could probably do very, very well. That means you're letting in enough light into that device, and then you actually have the ability to go ahead and actually get a pretty decent photo at that particular point in time. This is just some examples right here. This was out in San Diego at the harbor. Again, this was in aperture mode. You notice the F4, so we're about as low as that lens is going to be able to go at that distance. This was out in Hawaii in aperture priority mode. This particular photo right here, this is one of my favorites, taken in near Bismarck, North Dakota, 11 years ago. Little from the audience, a little feedback here. So this is a little after the 4th of July. you know, you're that far north. Guess what time that photo was taken? 10 o'clock at night. It was just a few minutes before 10 p.m. So you're that far north at that time of year, your sunsets are pretty late. This is in the Badlands. If you've never been to the Badlands before, I highly recommend it. Go, especially at sunrise or sunset. Just absolutely beautiful images you can get. This was actually one of my friends actually lives out in Hawaii. She is on the eastern side of Oahu, so this is looking at the mountain range, and that is the view from her, I guess, lanai / deck. What a view, right? I don't know if you're not, I'm jealous. I don't know if anyone else would be, but that's her view. This is the Capitol. This is a sundog completely around the, surrounding the Capitol. Took that photo. It was -5 degrees outside. Yeah, I'm nuts. What can I say? Again, same thing I showed you there earlier, just that at this particular point, I used aperture priority mode to get a little bit more. I'm at kind of mid, like 7.1 or 8. It's kind of like right there in the middle. It's almost kind of sweet spot most of the time. Just wanted to make sure I had a nice front to back focus on that. This right here out in northern, just a little north of Denver, actually. You got this particular backdrop. Sun setting right there. And then this is just taken from my apartment balcony. Nice pastel looking colors there in the sky. Sunset. Photographing lightning. Now, I put the disclaimer as safely as possible. Everyone says, oh, this is how you can do it. You can do it safe. Well, lightning decides where it wants to strike. So there is no lightning warning. So you just need a way of opening and closing your shutter on your camera. And even on your phone, there's lightning apps like this one. A lot of people that I know use this one. It's called iLightning Cam 2. And the Android version is called Lightning Camera. Basically, what it'll do is you just set it up. It takes a bunch of images in a period of a few seconds, and if you have a bolt that comes down, well, then you've got your image. It is trial and error. This particular one, I was a little bit too high on the ISO setting, so I need to bring that back down. Most of the time, your ISO setting for lightning should be about 100 or 200. Probably don't need to go any higher than that. A couple minutes later, learn my lesson, put down the ISO down to 200. Now we're good to go. You could have multiple strikes, something like this. That means it's very bright, or it's close, one of the two. Always make sure that you're manually focusing, especially if you're using like a camera with a interchangeable lens. The reason being is the camera doesn't know, like especially in the dark, like what's its focus point. So you may have to, if you have the ability, to actually manually focus sometimes. Again, quite a few of these photos have been actually taken from our apartment balcony. I think the person who showed us the apartment years ago was kind of wondering, it's like, why do you want an apartment that faces west-southwest? Well, you know, there's a reason. Because you get stuff like this. This particular next one was taken at 1:30 in the morning. This is probably one of my favorite lightning images, only because of how many strikes are there. Again, 1:30 in the morning. This particular one was also about around midnight. Now this one, you see the feature right behind the lightning bolt there. That is the shelf cloud coming in. Well, shelf cloud means one thing, wind. And when you have a lot of wind, things blow away. So when you're taking photos, make sure your tripod is anchored. Because if your tripod's not anchored, then it can be a bad day, because then it takes flight, and the next thing you know, you're like, ooh, what happened there? The good news is the camera was actually perfectly fine. It just, you see the scuff mark there on the lens hood. That's where the impact of the took on the camera there. The shutter release, unfortunately, was beyond repair, but, you know, replace a $40 shutter release versus, you know, an expensive lens. So here you go. This is lightning up in what we call the anvil, the thunderstorm. So when you look up, you see a thunderstorm and the tower goes up and then it spreads out across the sky. What you're seeing there is the anvil. And the anvil itself may have modest clouds underneath there. Those clouds are perfectly harmless. But essentially what you know is there is a storm nearby, usually probably within about 20 or 30 miles or less. Some more lightning. right there. Again, this was up in North Dakota. Got that beauty lake because it's just a little after sunset. This one was a few minutes later. And then we got those two particular images after 3 hours of, going out there and photographing lightning. We were also surrounded by Texas-sized mosquitoes. So when I often say, if you ever have to go to North Dakota, bug spray is not going to help you. Sorry, it's just not going to help you. It won't. It will not. This is the night of the Scott Frost's debut as Nebraska head coach. That was the reason why the game was not played, because of something like that. Here's a lightning strike near sunset out in northeast Wyoming. In Montana. This was over in central Nebraska a couple years ago. Then we get to a couple nights later, and we have some more fun near Two Buttes. This is in kind of like southeast Colorado. It was very desolate. There's not a whole lot in that area, including not much cell service either. But just a few photos here. You can see the butte there, right there in the lower left. You look closely enough. There's some more lightning. And then if that doesn't catch your eye, this next one will. This is my all-time favorite lightning shot, at least up to this point. Right there out of the anvil. Couple more. And then another. And one more. And there you go. All right, so again, a little feedback, little things to help you out here if you want to get more into photography. It doesn't even matter if it's storms. It could be anything. I mean, these are just different things you can consider. Always keep your horizon level, so your subject, no matter what that you're photographing, unless you're going for a unique look, I mean, just keep it level. Sometimes best zoom is your feet. I know a lot of folks get with the zoom lenses and all that, but sometimes you get a little bit closer to your subject. It's like, sometimes that'll make all the difference in the world. Using foreground elements or objects for interesting photos. That'll help you out there. Try different edits. We do like black and white, but black and white sometimes doesn't always work for every photo. And then try different points of view, like this particular one. These are my modest clouds. Obviously the corn there in the foreground. My wife basically doesn't suggest, she tells me, lay down in the road. It's a dirt road. It's off the main road, so there was no one there. And then point the camera up, and there you go. That's what we got. Right there near Hiawatha. This was near Elm Creek, Nebraska. This is probably the photo that I'm most known for, is this one. Basically, again, just we parked along the side of the dirt road, and then it's like, well, I'll just walk across, make sure I'm okay, and get that and compose it. Make sure you got the barbed wire fence right there. You've got the kind of farm there in the background, and then you got rainbow, you got your rain, you got your modest clouds, you got the pretty much the whole thunderstorm right there in view. Good image. Actually, that is on display at the National Weather Service office in Omaha. They're like, we can talk. We need to make sure we have that photo up in the office. So again, yep, Cheyenne, Wyoming, right there. Use what's available. Double rainbow up in Montana. Another barbed wire fence, plenty of those out there. Or use your friend or colleague if they're willing. Sometimes they don't even know. This particular one is now my probably second favorite photo of all time. This is a shelf cloud in central Montana, moving at about 70. So we parked and had the camera tripoded. You have enough for one particular shot. You only have one. Press the button. You see it's there. It's 1/10 of a second. So it's not a very long shutter. It had to be on a tripod. This particular one was not only named one of the top 100 images of 2019, but later we entered this in a photo contest sponsored by the American Meteorological Society. Say that 5 times fast. It's a worldwide contest. I believe there were something like, it was over 1,400 entries from 67 countries. And don't know how, but they voted that photo second. It was in 2023, I believe, or 22, excuse me. Yep, 2022. Yep, second place. Yep, overall. I believe the winner was a lightning bolt coming out of an ash cloud from a volcano somewhere. I mean, come on, that's going to be, that's a pretty tough one to top. Yep, rain shaft there at sunset with the railroad track there in the foreground. Hail shaft, like, okay, black and white, do the conversion. Sepia mode on this particular one, that's again another shelf cloud. Saw that one earlier, that's a black and white conversion. Hail shaft there out in northeast Wyoming. Got down a little bit lower, get some of the grass in the foreground, up in Chugwater. Now we also do more than just storms. So this is again, using that particular attachment I told you about earlier on your portable device. So that's just a little snowflake that fell from the sky. Got that. This is how often you'll see me just walking around with my camera, especially, on days that I'm here in the office. I'm just walking around. Sometimes you'll see me, especially now it's spring, getting different images. If you're not a fan of birds, just look away. That's just when it was, I believe at this point, it was 1.2 million snow geese at that particular point in time. They were down there at Los Bluffs. There will be more of these to come. This is from 2024. I have the 2025 version, the sandhill cranes. And these particular ones are good. I even have better ones from this year because, one, I had a better camera, and two, I have a camera with even a longer zoom lens. That was his 500. I believe I have one that goes all the way up to now 6. So I should be able to get some better images. Those are to come. As again, this was just walking around the facility here in Fallbrook. I was down at Los Bluffs air shows. I was off it years ago. Lincoln Air Show. Fireworks up in Pierre, South Dakota, a number of years ago. The trick to photographing fireworks and photographing lightning is exactly the same process and the same approach. The total eclipse, this was the one in 17, so this was the total one. We were out in kind of like the Panhandle near Bingham, so just near Alliance. And I think there was somewhere there had about 30 or 40,000 people that were out in just that area. This is the composite, so this is actually like nine or 10 photos, individual photos, and then we just put them in one giant photo there to show the progression of it. This was taken with the longest zoom lens that you can get on the commercial market. So this is the Nikon P1000. Now you can actually get one. Now it's the P1100. It has basically the equivalent of, I think, a 3,000 millimeter equivalent zoom lens, which is, again, that's pretty far in. But you can do something like this. You can just, full moon. I even tested it, and that's not even fully zoomed in. I believe I was able to get up to pretty much the craters on the one side there using that particular camera. It was fun. If you're a big fan of celestial events, then I highly recommend the Branched Oak Observatory, which is out near Raymond. The big Aurora show that we had last May, we went out there for it. Great show. This was probably about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning when this occurred. And it was just, that's the first time I've been able to see them. And you could see them, at least some of the colors, some of the reds and all that, you can almost see with the naked eye. A lot of them almost kind of, when you see them, majority of the time, it almost looks like this kind of like white curtain, just kind of like dangling down in the darkness. But that was the auroras. And then a few months later, we had the show in October, and this was out at Pawnee Lake. We wanted to try a different location, so we got the reflection off the water. Pretty good show, not nearly as good as the one in May, but still breathtaking. This was 9,200 feet elevation. This was at the Mauna Kea. So this is at the observatory there. 9,200 feet elevation, crystal clear sky. Set up the camera, I got the Milky Way. Then later that night, it's like, let's go out and photograph a volcano. So that's what we did. And it's the Halemaumau crater on the Kilauea there on the Big Island. And then that's Smith Falls, that's out, of course, near Valentine. Like I said, we do just a little bit of everything. So I put this in there just for fun, and this is near Illinois, pop quiz, what am I seeing? Basically, again, this is kind of like a mini promo for that presentation I have on YouTube. We go through kind of like the difference between shelf clouds, wall clouds, what to expect, what you should be on the lookout for, and everything. This is just a shelf cloud. It looks menacing, but you're going to experience, probably severe wind, like 50, 60 miles an hour. A little bit of small hail, but nothing too taxing at that particular time. And then, yes, advice from a guy that chases water vapor. It's just been a lot of patience, persistence, and perseverance, just going through everything, not only just in life, but obtaining, the knowledge. I've took no photography classes in college whatsoever. This has all been self-taught, just figuring it out as I go. And again, the presentations we give in the community, like what we do here today, is just about our position that we're always willing to give back. A lot of people helped us out throughout our journey. So we just like to give back, whether it be just in, just educate, or if you're interested, or, help stay safe during severe weather and so forth. That's what we're always trying to do. So that is it. Like I said, I want to make this pretty quick and pretty, just very low key and so forth. If you have questions, or there's questions here, gladly, because, we're only 12:30. So that's that's all the social media stuff right there. If you're part of that, I want to follow that. Lori mentioned at the beginning the email. I'm doing it from my personal email. So it's jerrybstorm@gmail.com. What she meant is that not every single event, because that's repetitive, and then after a while you're just going to tune me out, like my wife does. Just kidding. But basically, if there is an event that I feel that is going to be a significant threat to not only, especially when we're here in the office, but just in general to the area, what I'll do is I'll give you a very quick synopsis, couple key bullet points here and there to let you know. It's like, here's what I'm expecting, here's what could happen. Is it always going to happen? No. But what I'm doing is I'm making sure that you're aware of, hey, this looks pretty serious enough. It looks like it could be pretty close. So here's something you may want to consider, as far as like, I'll use the July 31st event as an example. I sent out an email probably about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And basically all I was saying was, hey, this looks pretty bad. It's not without the realm of possibility that we could have 75-mile-an-hour wind gusts or more somewhere in that 3 to 5 o'clock range. So just be aware of that, just in case, because it's rush hour and you're wanting to leave and so forth. So I sent that out, and a lot of folks later on the next day, said, thank you, because I stayed behind, because that was wicked. And it was very, very wicked. So again, am I going to do that for every single event that comes up? No. You get repetitive, and then it's the boy who cried wolf. So if I feel that there is a serious threat, then I will gladly provide that information to you. So again, if you just want to send me an email, whatever, if you just say, hey, add me to your list at this email, that's fine. I'll gladly do that for you. So with that, that is everything. So thank you very much for listening. I will gladly take any questions or comments or criticism. Hopefully more of the former than the latter.